Okay, I gotta admit, right off the bat, because you clicked on this, there's no nunchucks, bows and arrows, cool guy helmets in my everyday carry. I tricked you a little with that thumbnail. Um, I'm sorry. It's just old habits die hard, you know. I mean, ex-CIA, what do you expect? Okay, I'm gonna wade into the everyday carry conversation. Uh, Much to my chagrin, and I expect there'll be some healthy roasts down in the comments below. So feel free to tell me all the ways till Sunday that I'm wrong. But I'm going to offer my perspective. I'll give a little bit of my background only to tell you the experiences that I've had that have led me to the conclusions I'm going to bring up. But I think this might be a little bit different of an everyday carry thing. I will go through what I actually carry, but the point that I'll lead off with is when it comes to everyday carry, if I was going to say anything at all, and if you're only going to get one thing from this video, is that I very much believe in preparation of yourself for your family's sake. In the case that an emergency happens, which, you know, natural disaster, it could be anything, which I think all of us will intersect at points in our life with trauma and emergencies. And I think the more that you can be prepared, the better likelihood you might have a favorable outcome in those. You'll never be completely prepared. You'll never be foolproof. But at least you can do some things now to set yourself up. That said, the reason why I wanted to wade into this is my pet peeve when I watch everyday carry topic videos is focusing on the gear first. To me, that is the backwards lens of this topic. In my opinion, based on my experiences, you have to look at probability first. What is probably going to happen? What preparations can I make that will probably help me day to day or potentially in an emergency? But that probably and potentially is a really important thing. And when I look at a lot of the everyday carry preparation narrative, it's based on the paranoia side. The fringe over here and spending a lot of time preparing for things that aren't that likely, but, you know, and they might be extreme if they do happen, but I think we have to find balance in here. And so I would urge, and this is the standpoint that I've tried to take with what I carry, is what's probable. And that might change throughout your life or depending on where you are, if you're traveling and whatnot. But to foot stomp that, I would urge you to focus on what's probable and then prepare yourself, be that gear, knowledge, just literally thinking scenarios through and rehearsing with your family. Go that direction and then acquire the gear that you actually just really need to be able to execute those functions rather than, you know, seeing somebody review the cool new nunchucks and then, you know, you got to have your nunchucks. Okay, so my background really briefly, and I'll put some text up here too. Again, this little resume is not to say, oh, I know what I'm talking about. You better listen to me and I'm right because of these things. It's purely to give you context of where my experiences have been and why I think about this stuff in a certain way. Because if I had a different path, I might think about it completely differently. So going backwards in time, my last relevant job for this kind of stuff, I was in the CIA for only about 4.5 years. So wasn't there for a super long time. I was a paramilitary operations officer, and all of us that were PMOs had to get cross-trained as a case officer. And I ended, for family reasons, the last 1.5 years or so, my time there, I converted to case officer at the CIA. So it's a covert position. Only went overseas a couple times. So my experience relative to some of my classmates who are still there and still getting after it is minuscule. But it was a lot of experience condensed into 4.5 years. And the thought processes I learned through various really long training and really intense shorter training that we just kept iterating through, and some of my overseas experiences there have really flavored how I think about being prepared and the responsibility I feel about being prepared. So that's where a lot of it comes from. If I go back a little bit further, I was in the active duty Army for the 8 years prior to going to the agency. Started out as a Black Hawk helicopter pilot and then had a bunch of random jobs. I got attached to an SMU, which that kind of spoiled me. a couple of my friends there and I would talk about, preparedness topics, and that really started to shape how I was thinking things. And my last job in the Army, right before I went to the agency, I was able to be cadre at the U.S. Army Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape School. So I was the field OIC there. So I was in charge of the survival, evasion, and escape training. Got to do a bunch of cool extra courses with that stuff, and got to supervise the teaching and sometimes pinch hit teach survival and evasion and some of these relevant topics. Again, none of that makes me an expert in any of this, but all of that compilation of experiences has led me to have opinions on everyday carry and thought processes and how to evolve, and it's flavored everything you're about to hear. All right, that's out of the way. Feels yucky to talk about. So I struggled with where to begin when it's, hey, what do I have on my person? I am going to get the gun out of the way first, because I think too much time is spent, and when it comes to preparation on guns, right? And which gun and which scope and which this and which round, and this round is better than this round. And I remember being in a course, this is when I was at the agency, and a former Delta operator was showing us some stuff. As a contractor, they're teaching us, and we looked up at this rifle that he was shooting, and it was a Bushmaster, so it was a pretty inexpensive AR. And somebody's like, "Is that a Bushmaster?" And he goes, "Yeah, it shoots bullets out of the end." And I love that, because at the end of the day, like, these are everything that you're going to have on you as a tool. And like, yeah, you can knock off the 0.01% maybe marginal difference in changing optics or round type or whatever. But at the end of the day, when an emergency is happening, you need just a reliable tool. So I put it in this drawer here because it seemed convenient. But this is the gun that. So there you go, clear for all you weirdos. This is a Glock 43X MOS. MOS meaning it was already milled for this site. I've got a Holosun green dot. It's actually looks more like an EOTech reticle, and flashlight. That's it. The only other thing, everything else is stock. I did put this, I think the company's called Talus, this kind of like stickier stippling grip tape on here. But that's it. I'm not going to really go over too much about this. It's a 9mm. The reason I wanted to pull this out and even talk about it. So one, I don't always have this on me. It's usually within some sort of reach, but it might be in my vehicle. It might be on me. It might be in a bag. It kind of depends. And so the point that I want to make when it comes to the topic of guns is there is no hard, fast, right answer with any of this. You just need to think it through and think through what's probable. And when it comes to probability, think through what you are capable of, honestly, and what you're willing to take responsibility for. Because the second that you start carrying this, you have this massive responsibility because you've decided to bring a weapon. And that goes for any weapon. And I get asked a lot by folks, especially when we start talking about my background or whatever, like, oh, what gun should I get? And my answer is invariably like, whichever one that you've put the most rounds through and gotten the most training in. That's the one that when an emergency situation happens is going to be the best one for you to have. It's not going to be the latest, greatest, whatever. It's not going to be 6 Hour versus Glock versus whatever. It's going to be the one that you are the most reliably comfortable with, period. That's why I have a Glock. Some people, oh, I hate Glocks because of whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I just, because of work guns, I've put more rounds through Glock than any other, and they feel comfortable to me. So that's why I bought a Glock and really didn't think twice about it and didn't do research into all the new stuff that's coming out. That's it. So that's enough about that. Liquid death break. All right. So let's talk about, other than that, which I can go into it further if people are interested in another video. I can go over the holsters that I like or some of the mechanisms of how I keep them in bags, but that would be a whole separate video. What I'm wearing, though, is pretty much how I roll out each day. Uh, and this is probably another really important point. A lot of it's really boring, but I use it all the time. And so if we're talking about everyday carry and being prepared for what's probable, sometimes it's really boring stuff. So I'm gonna go over my keys first. So I got my car key and house key, but there's 3 things on here that I'll focus in on. They might be really boring. This thing has been a game changer for me. This is this little pill container from Amazon. I've got another one on my other set of keys that's smaller, but in here I've got Benadryl, aspirin, ibuprofen, Tylenol. And the amount of times that I crack this thing open, either for me or somebody else, is astounding. And having that on my keys has been probably one of the best everyday carry pieces of kit, because it's probable you're going to run across that and you're going to need some just little helpful pill, either with you and your family. This next thing, this is a tile. It's the same concept as a AirTag or whatever. This has been a game changer for me. My brain doesn't, always work super great anymore, and I lose my keys all of the time. And if we're talking about everyday carry, we're talking about having things be reliable, the ability to move your car at a moment's notice in case there is an emergency, in case your kid does fall down and get cut and whatever, being able to quickly find your keys. And for a person who loses them all the time, this tile has been a game changer for me, because as long as I know where my phone is or my computer, I can activate this to send me a signal or tell me exactly where it is. And I also have tracking on it so I can see where it goes. This is probably my favorite piece of everyday carry gear. And then I always put a tool, usually non-bladed, on my keys. Honestly, this is what I usually open Amazon packages with. But I usually just look that they've got some sort of pry thing and some sort of hook that I can hook them on my jeans. And then, if it's got other, bottle openers to crack a beer and all that. And that's it. So keys. And I try to make them big enough so I don't lose them. And I still do. And that's where that tile comes in. All right, keys. So I usually do carry a multi-tool. I got away from carrying like the really cool knives, and people have these fighting knives and stuff. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I'll go into the fighting knife thing. Like everyone talking about, oh yeah, I like this knife because I can fight with it. I don't know anyone that has been in a knife fight. I don't. In fact, I had the privilege of spending 2 days with Dan Inosanto in a seminar, and he was Bruce Lee's #1 student. And so, he knows Jeet Kune Do and is a Pinchat Salat guy and all this stuff. But he's really, really well known for his Kali, Eskrima, Arnis, so object in hand fighting, including knives. And so and I'm going to paraphrase this. And if he watches this, he's probably like, oh, it's not what I always said it, but it's how I remember it. He said, if I could rank order objectively everybody in this room in knife fighting ability, maybe he would be #1. And he was like, on any given day, number 40 could stab me. And not only is that relevant for the topic of like knives and getting in a knife fight and how like unreliable getting in a knife fight is, but that's, I feel like, pretty sage advice for all of this. And when it comes to protecting your family and all that, like you're just stacking the deck in your favor by being prepared, but you're never ever making yourself invulnerable and impenetrable. And if you ever think that you're impenetrable or that you've got everything figured out, if you thought through everything and crossed every T and dotted every I, that's when emergencies are going to sneak up and bite you. So anyway, I got away from, carrying these really cool guy knives, and this Leatherman Skeletal, this is probably my 3rd one just because I keep losing them. That's a theme. Is my favorite multi-tool ever. So I like that the blade's on the outside, so you don't have to open it up. Some of the ones that have pliers, you got to open them up to get the blade. I like that I could just get to the blade in case I do need to cut something. I use that blade all the time, but I do like that this one does also have pliers. Handy dandy pliers and a screwdriver right there, and it's also able to be clipped to stuff. For those simple reasons alone, I have had a Skeletal on me probably for at least well over a decade, and usually don't go anywhere without it. So Skeletal. I'll talk real quick on wallet. So this is a company called Alpaca. I don't like super tactical looking stuff. You know, I think low vis is better, in my opinion. Whew, I'm gonna get roasted on this one probably, and I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings. But the more tactical stuff just draws attention to you. Now, some would argue maybe that's a good thing. Oh, well, by advertising that I've got tactical stuff, maybe people don't mess with me. I don't know. I think the whole goal is to not draw attention. So, but alpaca makes this like kind of more like urban feel stuff, but it's super durable. You know, it's all got oranges and stuff like that. But like, I mean, I have had this one for a while and I can't break it. I just keep my cards in there. Huh? I also keep another tile that they make that's wallet shaped because I lose this wallet all the time and have to trigger this tile. And then there's some cash in there always. So pretty simple wallet. Then we'll go the big supercomputer, obviously your phone. Nobody goes anywhere without that. So that is part of my everyday carry. And there's a lot of, you know, I could probably do a whole video on a phone. It's VPN'd all the time. That's a whole rabbit hole, but phone, obviously. And then lastly is this. This is pretty much the only other thing I carry. And this is this really cool, I think they call this a pocket slip. But this is this little American company, I think in Colorado, called Hitch and Timber. And this thing has been awesome. I keep a flashlight, another little tool in case I forget or lose my Leatherman. So this one's similar. It's just like a little pry Gerber thing. It's got a knife and little scissors in it. It always just lives in here. And a pin. It's a pin, flashlight, tool, and it just keeps everything flat and everything doesn't just fall to the bottom of your pocket and feel like crap. So that's everything that I have in my pockets on any given day. Last thing I'll talk about is actually pants. So this is going to be awkward. I almost invariably wear Vertex pants. I wore them back in the day for reasons that I don't think are as probable anymore. Like there's little hidden compartments that you can put handcuff keys or bobby pins to pick stuff. Not really my jam anymore, or at least I don't think it's that probable. I hope not. But I'll highlight the things that I like about them. You know, normal jeans, these are called the Defiance jean, but they've got this pocket up here, which is actually really great for AR mags, M4 mags. I've put M4 mags in there before. It's very convenient instead of having to wear a whole bunch of stuff. But I don't run around with M4 mags because, again, when it comes to probable, if I haven't beaten this to death, like when you think about permissive, semi-permissive, and non-permissive environments, like my day-to-day is in a pretty permissive environment. And so pretending or playing dress up or kidding myself out like I'm on the streets of Mogadishu probably doesn't make a lot of sense. And so, yeah, I'll leave that one where it is. But the thing that I like the most about this magazine pouch is it is the perfect size for my iPhone to go in. And when I sit down, I don't sit on my iPhone because it's rocked over here to the side. The last thing I like about these is in the back pockets, they've got a little flap. So if you do end up putting your wallet in the back pocket, I never do, it's always in the front, then you can slip it in there and tuck it underneath that thing. And, you know, I guess a pickpocket would have more difficult time getting to your wallet. This last part of everyday carry, the thing, it's one more item that I'm going to talk about. It's kind of a two-part, and it's like, oh man, he went deep with this one. So this is, I'm going to talk about my belt real quick. And the reason I'm talking about my belt is less about, I do think that you really need a sturdy belt. There's a lot of like, you know, rescue implications and all that kind of stuff. But the reason I always carry this belt is because I think the biggest, most important everyday carry item that you can have is who is in your inner circle. All of this stuff could be wiped away. Everything that I've got in various bags or whatever, every tool could be wiped away. But if I've got a really solid set of human beings in my inner circle, I'll be fine. And this belt reminds me of that. So this belt is a Macks belt. And Mac was a Navy SEAL. He's a very close, dear friend of mine. He's a Navy SEAL who got injured on a beach overseas, got a TBI so hard that, if I remember correctly, it split his ops core in half. And he literally hand built this company from scratch and made these belts. This one's really special to me. I've bought all of them because I really want to support him. But this one is the one that I wear almost all the time because he let me name it. When he came out with this one, I don't know, a couple years ago, I was living in Montana. He said, "What do you want to name this one?" And I said the Bridger belt because I was looking at the Bridger Mountains at literally when he was talking to me. And so he sent me the first Bridger belt, which is cool. I don't even know if he carries the Bridger belt anymore. But this thing is just super solid, handmade by somebody in my inner circle that I would trust. And every time I put this belt on, and I wear a Macks belt every single day of my life, I think of him and all the other folks that I'm really lucky to have in my circle. And honestly, especially looking back at a few weeks ago in Hurricane Helene, and I ended up having to take a trip down there into West North Carolina just to get my mom. It's all who you know. Like, the only people coming to save you. A dear friend of mine named Scott Mann, who's a retired Green Beret and just wrote the book Nobody's Coming to Save You, talks about this in his book. Like, nobody is coming to save you. The only people that care are maybe your tight nucleus of friends. And so if we're talking everyday carry and the things that you need to be resilient and self-reliant, it is going to be the people that you choose to have in your inner circle. So it's kind of a deep thought, but that's what this belt represents. And it happens to also be a belt that I do wear or carry every day. Now, all of this to say, this isn't a whole bunch of stuff, but I don't want to be misleading. I do have a lot of preparations made in my home. I have a very built-out vehicle with redundant comms systems, an off-road trailer that follows it for contingency stuff that I'm currently building. It's fairly new. I've got various bags and pouches that, depending on the situation, I might plus up or go down. They could all be videos in themselves. If there's an interest for that kind of stuff on this channel, I will make those. I'll do a vehicle walk around, but you got to let me know. We'll see how this video does, and if these videos take a while, and so I'm happy to do it if the interest is there. So please let me know. Do you want me to go further in all this? Okay. So with that, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for being gracious and listening through all that. My channel, so the Gravel Drive Media channel, I started my own company, a media production company, where I do visual storytelling for other people and brands primarily. And I do that all with cameras. But I wanted this channel to be my outlet. And so I've recently created this channel, and it honestly is a smorgasbord of stuff. It's kind of going to be all over the place, but that's who I am. It's kind of all over the place. And so there's going to be content like this, preparation content, adventure content. I really like singing and playing the guitar. That's a whole playlist. I'm going to talk about camera stuff, but the real reason I started this YouTube channel was to tell stories that matter. Like, there's already a video on the channel about my friend Perk, who has just this incredible inspirational story after she was blown up in Afghanistan. If that all interests you, the way you could help this whole effort out is liking, subscribing, and commenting. That helps the channel. It helps the channel grow. Also, I have started a Patreon, patreon.com/graveldrivemedia, links somewhere here. And for $5 a month, there's a friends of the channel support thing. In there, I'm going to be fielding questions on any of these videos that I put out. And if there's interest, going really deep into it. I've got, for instance, I have these medical kits that I've made, and I can go through, and I've made for myself. I don't make them to sell, but I can go through why I put things where I put them based on what experience. And I'm willing to share my mistakes here if it's interesting to you. So again, thanks so much. Hit like, subscribe, comment, and hopefully I'll see you back here on Gravel Drive Media. Thanks.